Oh, did I change my? Oh, dang it! I was gonna go change it. I think I already went live. Darn it! I did. I was gonna go change it. I don't
Why?
think I ever put it back to 1080. Dang it! Well,
Oh
what's
yeah,
happening,
God, you
Fish
look
and
like
friends?
garbage.
I know. Damn it. What's happening? Welcome to another lackluster, horrible quality live. It's only in 780 or whatever, not 1080, 720. I don't know what the hell numbers.
I
But
demand
tonight's
1085
yeah,
29p.
Blu-ray, beta. Tonight should be a fun one. Of course, we've got the man, the myth, the Dizzle up there. How are you, sir?
I feel like I got sunburned today
I
on my
did too. I was
face.
just look at my hand from reeling. I don't know if you can tell. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
a perfect burn of right where my long sleeve shirt stopped.
Oh, my face is just hot. That hot feeling that you get on that
I
sunburn.
love it. I
Jeez.
freaking love it. I've waited so long to be out in the stupid Iowa winter, and we're out. Okay, so also got Daniel with us. Daniel is an OG follower of mine. Daniel and I have followed each other. I feel like you followed me close to the beginning, at least. I don't know. I always remember us going back and forth, but Daniel is a cool guy because he's got a few different things that we're going to look into, talk about in the fishing industry. So, Daniel, welcome, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, man. Yeah, I
You're
think it was
welcome.
I was living in Mississippi, so it had to be in like 2017, 2018. I don't know whenever
Yep,
you first got
it was
started.
very early on. Yeah, I was thinking you were in Mississippi. I was thinking you were in Florida. Did you live in Florida too for a while?
Lived in Florida for 15 months, but before that, I was in Mississippi, and I was following you
Okay.
when I first got into bait making.
Yeah, I remember you were a Southern guy. Which is we're gonna tip into that too because it's kind of an interesting story for you, not only the fishing side of things, and I know the bait making side is the other thing for everybody. I know we've got quite a few folks in here that like to make baits, talk baits, any of that. So we're going to kind of get into all the big swim baits that Daniel does, rat lures, all that kind of stuff, and how it ties into spring. And then we're going to open up chat. Of course, like every live, we will do a giveaway. Daniel was nice enough to offer up $1,000 of baits that he's made, so we'll be giving that away tonight. No, I'm kidding. I've seen about 10 requests in here if I'm going to give away my zillion. No, I sent out, and look, even from last week, I got all of my giveaways done. Cody, I still haven't got your custom bait done. Speaking of making baits, I have not airbrushed in probably 3 months, so I'm
A
way behind. And then
fortnight.
Rob, I know I still owe you a reel. I was actually out messing with the reel today, hoping I could get some catch footage to finally do the video, and then send you the reel. I think you'll like it. So
I'll throw in a bait for the
no,
giveaway.
no, no, no. I am teasing. You do not need to throw in anything. I will
No,
do
I
a
want
box
to.
of
I'll
stuff.
throw in one. I got to finish a couple of them anyway, but I've got some extras. I'll throw something
Dude,
in.
you do not have to at all. If you want to, that's up to you, but you certainly do not have to.
No problem.
Okay.
I
Well,
got you.
I'll hook you up with some lures or something too in exchange if there's anything you've been wanting to
Don't even worry
try.
about
Or
it. Happy to
all
help.
right, well, maybe I'll send you an autograph picture. It'll be worth like at
That would
least
be
ten
worth it.
dollars. ten
Yeah.
dollars one day. Okay, well, we'll talk about that. Okay, cool, Daniel. You do not need to do that, but we'll get that figured out. So, Daniel, Dizzle ruined it. I wanted to ask you about your 30-second elevator speech as a surprise. I didn't want to give you any sort of chance to get ready for it, but now you have. So, tell us
Don't
about
worry,
you. Where did
the gears are moving slow tonight, so I'm starting from scratch.
Okay. Tell us about your journey. Where did you grow up fishing? How did you get into lure making? Give us a quick rundown of you and the fishing world.
Yeah, man. I'm originally from South Louisiana, the home of Thibodaux area. So I grew up south of New Orleans, born and bred Cajun. So fishing was a way of life. I can't tell you the first time I went fishing or the first fish I caught because it was just always part of everything we did. You know, had family that had fishing camps, lake houses, whatever you want to call them. So always on the water. My dad was a business man by profession, but he did a lot of carpentry. So I got into woodworking
Hmm.
pretty early. And that's why I've kind of progressed into making. You know, I considered myself a maker before I got into bait
Ah.
making. So just
Okay.
tinkering
Yep.
with things, and the bait making was kind of just a marriage of my two passions, which was fishing and making things out of wood. And so that's what I do. I got a little company called Top Banana Lures. I started it probably
I was gonna link
2017,
that. Darn it.
2018, up in that range. So it's going on close to 6 years now. I've been making baits. Um, But yeah, since I grew up in South Louisiana, I do a lot of coastal stuff. So I've got saltwater baits. I do a lot of freshwater baits. I kind of bounced around the Southeast, as you know. Lived in Louisiana, moved to Missouri, moved down to Mississippi, lived in Florida for nearly 2 years, and now I'm back up in Missouri again. And so all the baits I've made have been kind of, wherever I've lived, kind of influenced the types of baits I make because of, a particular
That's
need I
interesting
might want.
too.
Particularly need I might want in a bait, I would make it for that. But yeah, a little bit on Top Banana Lures. People always ask me, aren't bananas bad luck on the boat? Why would you name your company that? But Top Banana Lures is actually a nickname that was given to my grandfather, and he had a fishing camp on Lake Pontchartrain, which is right outside of New Orleans, and I decided to name my bait making venture in memory of him. So Top Banana Lures comes from my grandfather, who taught me a
Okay.
lot about life and fishing and, living off the water, so to speak, and all those good things. So, yeah.
Yeah. How far are you? I don't know where in relation to how far are you from the Gulf down there? Pierre Part. How far are you from Pierre Part?
Oh, man, Pier Part. I mean,
Louisville.
I grew up, so you're probably thinking about like Swamp People with Troy Landry and all that.
Dude, I love
So
Troy, Pierre
I've met a
Part.
couple of those guys.
Really?
But
Dude, I
yeah, so
freaking love that show.
Thibodeau's a little bit south from Pier Part. So Pier Part kind of backs up against like the Atchafalaya Basin. And so
Yeah.
it's, big reservoir, big, what do you call it? Kind of like a water reserve.
Like a backwater.
Lots of swamp, lots of fresh
Mm-hmm.
water, lots of game, fish and game, all sorts of things. People live on the land out there and they still do. And
Yeah,
but
I
yeah, we
have
weren't
a.
too far from there.
That's awesome. I have a huge love for Louisiana or Louisiana, right? Is that the correct way to say it?
Louisiana.
Um, Southern eating, Southern cooking. I actually we had Cajun Fest here in Iowa growing up.
Come
And it
on.
was actual dudes from Louisiana that came up. And I worked in the kitchen every year, and it was so cool working with those dudes. And the cook just would rib me and grill me. And he was like, he's like, hey, little boy. He's like, you know why all the Cajun cooks go, aye? I'm like, no, why? He's like, cause the food's damn hot. Now keep cutting. And he had me cutting frozen alligator tail, cutting it in cubes and stuff. It was funny. It was a good time. But okay, so as far as Southern Randy, tough crowd tonight. Yeah, Randy's doing pity laughs for me. I don't see any laughs in the chat. So as far as being in the South, that was kind of interesting too. That you said that you've kind of catered and tailored your bait making to the different spots you're in. So, give us an example of like some things you're throwing now in Missouri. You said you're kind of close to Columbia or around the Columbia area, right?
Yeah,
So
so
what are some?
between St. Louis, Kansas City, right smack in the middle of the state.
Okay, so what are some things you're making now? I guess for the area down there, bluegill lures, shad lures, what?
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I didn't really get in. I wouldn't consider myself a rat builder or a rat maker, so to speak, but I got into rat making because of Missouri. So a lot of the waters I fish have a lot of muskrats in it.
Yep.
In the spring, you have a lot of these baby muskrats, these juvenile muskrats start making their first little swims, getting out the den, and I've seen bass crush them, and that kind of triggered something.
Really?
But it wasn't necessarily Missouri is why I started building rats. I started building rats when I was in Mississippi, but I really got focused on it in Florida because I was in Florida. I noticed that rats were kind of bouncing around the bank. They were like these little field mice. And
Yep.
they were called Florida mice, and they would jump in the water, and I'd see big bass crush them every now and then. And so that was kind of what led me to build my first rat, which was that Sugarfoot, I call it. This was actually a replica of the first one I made. First one I made, I gave away, but this is a replica of the first one I made. It's a little 2-piece rat. But I've kind of progressed and made something that looks more like a muskrat now. This is my 3-piece. I call it the Wrigley's rat. Here.
How big is that?
This one's about 6 inches. It's running probably about 3.5 ounces, depending on the type of wood I use. But very clacky. This is a great. A lot of the waters I fish are very muddy, and so sound and just a lot of water disturbance really triggers a lot of bites where I'm at. And so that's why I came up with something that's got a lot of joints, a lot of clack, a lot of movement. You can really dig in the water a little bit. But these swim just like muskrats. I've watched them and try to replicate the swim action based on what I see in the water. But yeah, that's kind of what I do here.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing too. I've never really thought about that, like the whole clacking piece of it shows you how noobish I am when it comes to the swim bait stuff. But I think glide baits, the larger glides and stuff. But that's interesting too, throwing that in dirty water with that clack. And of course, obviously the wake, they can feel that, but the clack is, yeah, that's something I've honestly never thought about. I feel like a dummy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, clack's helpful not only in dirty water, but night fishing too. If it's
oh,
clear water and you're working a
sure.
lot of pressured waters, I don't think the clack is as effective because it kind of turns them off. They're used to
Mhm.
mechanical sounds from like crankbaits and stuff, and you might want to go with something a little more silent. And that's why I make these one-piece rats too.
Yes. Yeah. So if y'all
Still
saw
get
my
like water
unboxing,
disturbance and wake, but not so much clack.
yeah, which I think is going to be good for the Midwest here. And Randy and I have talked about that. I made a rat lure, I don't know, a couple years ago, and it looks literally like a 5-year-old made it, but hand whittled. I'm not a woodworker. Like I am horrible when it comes to that stuff. So fun to do. Daniel sent me that rat. It was in the, I think you call it the dead bluegill pattern, which I absolutely love. Today I saw 3 dead bluegill, and they have that, that white haze over them. They get that, um, kind of washed out look. The colors bleed out of them, and they're just a real muted general color. So that's one I honestly think that I can get to work around here, as opposed to like the big swim baits and stuff. I mean, I've had them follow it, but I'm not a big swim bait guy. So, and two, so can people, do you have a website, or are you just on, because I want to make sure we bring that up for anybody looking. I always try to help out the small bait makers. Do they just hit you up on Instagram, or do you have like an actual website?
Yeah, right now I'm doing a lot of custom orders. I do
Okay.
some little drops, some small batch drops every now and then. I post everything on Instagram, which
I
automatically feeds into my
froze.
Facebook. I do have a website. It's mostly just for posting information, but I'm actually about to transition. For the first time in like Top Banana history, I'm going to have my first dedicated shop here pretty soon.
Mhm.
It's completely just bait making, and once that happens, I want to upgrade, my website, get a whole web store set up, and just have stock and inventory. If I post things and do
Gotcha.
drops and they sell out, great. But my goal is just to build up inventory in all the different categories of baits I make, so people can kind of come and go and fill up a cart, get some merchandise and things like that. But for right now, if you want to bait, just reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook. Just send me a message like, hey, I want this bait or that bait. You can go on IG, and I've got all pictures and swim videos and fish pics and all that
Yep.
stuff to see,
Top
which you might want.
banana lures. All right. So I put it in the chat. I'm gonna jump out real quick. I'll be back. I froze. I kind of like the picture. It's like I'm very intrigued, yet kind of looks zombie-ish. Maybe
Pretty
stoned. I'm not
much.
sure what's going on there. So hold on, I'll be back.
It's like a CNN phone interview. You just have the picture of the
Right.
person.
That's what he should
Hardly
do for
working.
when that happens. You should just put up that stock photo and just be like, hold it and freeze.
I'm not sure why it does that. I even checked everything beforehand to make sure I was good. I did the task manager. I don't know. We're dealing with it. So anyway, okay, rat lure. So when would you say, like, because I've talked to multiple people about this, of like, and I'm not talking about just the big wake lures, like, like a rat or a swimbait deal, but when would you say those type of waking rats, or even the smaller ones? I don't know that I've seen you make any of those, but like the smaller, let's say like a 2.5 size wake, like a yeah, or even like I don't know if you make like a bait fish type one too, but like a small wake bait. Yes, even like you're even
Crappie.
smaller than
Yeah.
that. When would you say those excel? Like from your experience fishing those, because I can tell, like I can go out on a day and be like, today is going to be a Ned rig day. I can feel it. Today I can throw a spinner bait, I'm pretty sure, and catch some fish. Never in my life do I go out and be like, ooh man, today looks like a really good wake rat day. I bet I could catch a wake rat, or even like a wake, like these kind, like a Strike King, like 2.5 or 3.5 type, even a
Yeah.
bait like this. So when would you say those really excel, or you have the best luck fishing those? Or is it a
Yeah. I mean, wakes for smaller wakes, like the conventional stuff. I mean, you can throw that in any kind of like smooth water, early morning where you think top water bite would be really hot. I think a wake bait will work because you can work it similar to like something like a spook, right? You can kind of pop
see
it
that?
and work it and wake it in between.
Yeah, and that's where I get confused. Like, because I never go to that. And maybe it's just a different look, something I need to start mixing in. But it's like, if I feel like it's going to be a good topwater bite, I'm going to throw a topwater and catch topwater fish. If I'm not getting those topwater bites, I might go subsurface. So maybe I need to go to that as my transition where like, it's getting just a little bit below the water so they don't really have to come all the way. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So based on what I observe, match to hatch, I've noticed that you get a lot more terrestrial activity on the water, like frogs and rats and things like early in the morning and late in the evening. And then also in the
Low
middle of the
light.
night. So something like a dark rat would work really well, like late at night, early in the morning. I never really catch much on rats in the middle of the day. It's usually in those waning hours or waxing hours, whatever you want to say.
And that makes sense. That's probably when they're
going
going to be most active too, feeding, looking for stuff. They're not going to be out in the middle of the heat and, the light
You
of
don't
day.
see any muskrats in the middle of the day. You
Right.
might, but it could happen. But most of the activity is late at night and early in the morning. So I think a rat style wake bait will work best under those conditions. Now, as far as like a bait fish style wake bait, you can throw those not any time of the year, but as long as the water levels are warm, you can throw those anytime. I've caught nice bass in Florida in the middle of the day, throwing like bluegill style wake baits. Some nice bass, big, 6, 7, 8 pound bass. And so, it just kind of, you got to know your area and know what you're confident in. But yeah, I'm a big fan of night fishing. So wake baits work really well at night for me here in Missouri.
Okay. Yeah. And that's something I need to get into more. It's hard, like trying to juggle work, family, and filming. Like I usually go during the time when filming is good, maybe I need to go more at night.
At night.
Yeah. That's the hard part. Yeah. Like you can, and then the bugs get bad. Then they're just dive bombing you if you've got a headlamp on. I don't know. I need to do it more, but we'd also have some other good large bait fisher anglers in here. Matthew, South Jersey, he's a big bait guy. He said most of my rat bites have came just before dark or night, which makes sense. I know Brendan Baitco, another bait maker. He throws a lot of the big lures and stuff.
Brown Baitco. Yeah.
Yep. We've got quite a few folks in here that throw that stuff. So if y'all have questions and we're not getting to one, feel free to throw it in there in the chat. Ask it a couple times if you feel it's a big one. I'll try to get to stuff, but I really want to pick Daniel's brain on a lot of the stuff for maybe the first half hour-ish, 45 minutes or so. Then we'll try to open it up for questions to him, me, really anything. So let's say for somebody new getting into the swim bait game, what would you recommend? Like, I hear people say like the River to Sea S Waver, right? Is a good one to start. The 168, I want to say. Is that the smaller size? The 168. Let's say somebody getting into it, maybe with showing some example of some of yours, or if there's other, like the mass produced stuff from other brands, what would you recommend? Like somebody?
Yeah, let me grab some stuff real quick. I'll show you what I first started with.
Okay, I'll answer some questions here. Dizzle, do you see any good questions over there? It looks like you're studying for an exam.
I'm having a heck of a time here. I don't know if you can even hear me right now or not, but my headphones just stopped working and
Hey guys, we're high tech. My camera don't work. His headphones don't work. You'd think that we'd done this for a couple times, maybe. No, we're still struggling.
Hey, just take me out, but I need to hop off the Wi-Fi. You didn't remind me. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right.
I'm just gonna remove Randy. I like removing him from the stream.
Yeah. So when I first got started, I started throwing swim baits when I was living in Mississippi, only because I was making them. When I first started learning how to make baits, I didn't really know much about it. YouTube, there wasn't a whole lot of YouTube content on there. Like marling was like just getting started. There wasn't a whole lot on there, but there was an ebook online from this guy named Greg Vinal from Australia, who was building like single piece glides and, multi-jointed baits. And so I was making them then, but I really didn't get into swim baits heavy until I moved to Florida, just because the quarry there, the big bass, and I saw bass hitting big fish, big tilapia, big cichlids, and other bass as well. But what I got started with, the first glide bait I bought was a Storm Arashi.
Yep.
I'm sure you're familiar with it. This one's all beat up. I've caught some mondos on this guy, but it's a good $30 to $40 bait. It's pretty reasonable.
I was gonna say, I'll bring some of these up while you're talking about them.
But the S Waver is a good one. Bass Pro Shop, their BPS came out with a glide bait recently. that's super economical, and it glides okay. It's not going to be like a high-end glide bait, but there's people catching some nice fish on it, so that's another great option. But if
I
you're
didn't know
trying
they
to
had
just
one.
kind of fill the ranks with swim baits, just having like a glide bait, like an S-Waver or like an Arashi is a good option. And then things like this Mega Bass. Shit, I forgot the name of the damn bait. Mag Draft. That's what they're called. The Mag Draft. They make like a freestyle that you can rig with like a weedless swim bait hook. And then they have the other one. Chris Zaldain made these really famous with the little bottom hook. This was actually my first mag grab. You can see it's all beat up like a Mike Tyson opponent. But yeah, I started with that, and just kind of, I didn't really have much to go by. I just threw it out and kind of watched the fish behavior. And then eventually I kind of fine-tuned my action and found out what worked for my area. But those are some good introductory types of swim baits that I would recommend.
Now, when would you switch between? Can you hear us there, Dizzle?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Walmart Wi-Fi, Walmart earbuds. Let's get with it, man. Come on.
How am I sounding? I'm sounding okay?
You
you're
sound
good.
perfect, man.
Straight
You're the most tech savvy out of all the three of us, so you got to keep us going here. Well, see, what do you do? So when would you differentiate between? Because that's one I get asked a lot, and I truly don't know the difference. When would you go to like that bigger mag draft soft plastic versus like one of the bigger glides?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on the time of the year. So if you're working like pre-spawn, so a lot of these big females are going to be fattening up. Probably the transition from fall to winter is kind of that first period where you can really get them on some big glide baits and some big soft plastics. I'm talking like some 6, 7, 8-inch baits because they're fattening up for the winter. Another time is when it's starting to warm and they're getting ready for that pre-spawn period. They're going to start hitting some bigger quarries, so you can get away with throwing bigger glides and bigger soft plastics. Post spawn's another period. They're depleted and they're looking to just hit anything. That's where wake baits really excel, particularly like in the daytime in the post spawn period. They just do really well. Like February, March, April, depending on where you're at. That's a good time of the year to start throwing wake baits.
So right now's like the time.
Yeah, now's the time to throw some bigger wake baits. Like the rat I gave you is a great size to start throwing. And, throughout the summer, you can still get hit on those types of baits. But I would say concentrated time, transition to winter, pre-spawn and post-spawn is where you're going to get the most success with those bigger baits.
Okay. I need to tie one on, really dedicate to it. I feel like I don't give them enough love. Tree Pounder asked, do you modify those at all? I think he was maybe talking about like the, I'm sharing here, like the store-bought, like say the Arashi. Do you modify these at all, or do you just fish them as is, same hooks and everything? I think these have the rotating hangers too, right? They have the rotating
things. So they got the swivel hook hangers, which are great for preventing that leverage from losing some nice fish. Because a lot of times when those big bass will hit a glide bait, the natural response, the natural approach is to take a headshot on them. Because they want the fish to go head first. So a lot of times you miss those hooks and you kind of skin them. So with that being said, I would recommend upgrading your hooks, or at the very least, make sure you sharpen your hooks so you got a nice edge on them. Because if you just get like one hook in them, you want to make sure that it's sharp enough to penetrate. But the sock hooks aren't bad. Some people would probably reprimand me for saying that, but the sock hooks aren't actually that bad on them. If you got the hardware, I would recommend upgrading to either a KVD or a Gamakatsu, like a 1 or 2 aught would be a great hook for a bait like this.
That's a good point too, is just sharpening them. I feel like I even get lazy with that too. Like some hooks are, because I mean, you can even a KVD, I've even had, I mean, it's very, very rare, but even like an owner, some of the stingers of the, the higher price ones, there might be one that's just barely bent over. It got dropped or hit or something, it could happen. So just keeping a little sharpener there. And as you go out or, as you feel them, if one's a little bit dull, sharpen it up and get right back at it.
Yeah. If you feel like a hook, like if you accidentally snag something or go through a lot of grass, it'll feel dull. And then if you look closely at it, sometimes you can see that point that's like angled in the opposite direction. You need to file that down because that could be the make it or break it for a trophy fish for you. But yeah, as far as other modifications, I've actually drilled holes. The first one I bought was great, but I bought some like a year later, and I don't know, they changed something up and they were swimming like nose up. And so I actually drilled
Really?
some holes in some other ones and put in a little bit of weight and sealed them off so they can nose back down and level back out. Because that's the one thing you want. You want a glide bait to swim nice and level. If it noses anywhere, I'd rather it nose down a little bit than nose up because it just looks a little bit more natural. But you can achieve that with just upgrading your split rings to a little bit heavier split rings, hook sizes, and then in some cases, if you really want to get it down or really kind of favor like a nose down, you can put some lead tape around the shank of the hook. That's another option for that.
So I would assume kind of like a jerk bait too. You could even put a little bit of those like lead dots on the belly of it or something if you needed to.
Yeah, like the tungsten dots or putty or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, as far as lure making, well, I'll pepper you with just a couple questions here, and then we'll kind of get into chat. I see with chat's popping off. I love it. Tyler, hook sets are free is in the house. Tyler, I hope you're well, man. I haven't talked to you in a minute. All the members out there, like Daniel, you're a fake Scott, Frankie, we're the real. I don't know what's going on. There's all sorts of fights busting out in here.
Yeah, it's probably best you don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm sure it's egged on by Dizzle, but
highlights coming up.
Yeah, who even knows here? Yeah, here I can see it. One of us.
258 watching right now.
Probably another swim baiter on there.
254 watching, 87 likes. How about everybody just take one quick second, go out there, click that thumbs up for good old Debo.
Hey, it's free. Help support us. If you like this, support us with the thumbs up. Okay, so in bait making, gosh, I don't even know how to phrase this question. What would you say is like your favorite thing about it and maybe the hardest thing about it? I know you said you had some examples too to kind of show us. That might be neat, showing the process of them as you talk through.
I'll take you through my progression, and then I'll kind of touch on the answers to those questions along the way. When I first got started, I was living in South Louisiana, so I did a lot of surf fishing in the Gulf of Mexico and just some of those brackish estuaries up in the marsh. So I started making like little small, like twitch style baits. This is one I made out of some Spanish cedar, but this is a real popular bait, or a real successful bait, or productive bait, I should say, fishing like the surf for like speckled trout and redfish and stuff like that. It's kind of like a moderate sink, and it's got a very erratic action. You just kind of jerk it through the water. It looks like a little bait fish getting away. So I've done stuff like that. I've done some lipless style crankbaits. I kind of did my own take on it. Like this bait right here, I call it the jig shad. Kind of like my own take on a sexy shad. But it's got two toe points. It's got a top to run it like a lipless, but also another on the front, so you can run it either like a twitch bait or a single piece glide. Because if I just retrieve it in the water, it has a nice S-wave type action. So I caught a lot of bass in Mississippi on this one. I caught a lot of trout on this. I also made poppers. Did a lot of like standard type cut poppers. Very successful baits. I kind of progressed to some square bill type crankbaits. This one made out of cypress wood. Gets down about 10 feet. And then also some single piece wakes. Kind of going into like a knocker or whatnot. But yeah, that's the beauty of it. And one thing I really like about bait making is I come from a creative background. I used to do a lot of drawing and woodworking. So I like to kind of create new things. And the beauty of working with wood as a medium is like you're not kind of married to like one mold or anything like that. Not anyone against that pours molds or nothing like that, but I can just come in the shop in one day and crank out an idea. In fact, that's what I do. Instead of jotting things on paper, if an idea comes in my head, I just go ahead and carve it out real quick and at least have a blank ready to go when I want to come back to it. But yeah, so I started out with some of those single piece, kind of more common types of baits. And then I progressed to swim baits kind of towards the latter years that I was in Mississippi. I started doing glide baits based on some of the information I was reading from that Australian lure builder, Greg Vinall. And just trying to kind of perfect the action of it. In order to perfect something, you need to have something to validate off of. So that's why I started getting into some of these more common swim baits like the Stormarashi. And then eventually I started buying some handmade baits from other builders to try to figure out, what am I doing? What is it supposed to swim like? What is it supposed to look like?
Kind of your baseline as you're building it.
My own thing with it.
Okay. Yep. Now,
And I got the first one, but what was the other question? Sorry.
I was going to say your favorite and thing that maybe was the most frustrating or
Right.
hardest part of it. Jason had a good question too. I'll parking lot mine real quick. How long does it take you to make one of those? I know it's obviously going to depend on the lure, but
Yeah, it depends on the bait. Some baits I can crank out in a day or two. There's a lot of parts in the process that I got to let things just dry and sit and
sure,
cure. So that's where a lot of the time comes in. But in terms of like total handling times, baits can take anywhere from an hour, 2 hours, up to 7 hours of total handling time, depending on the type of bait. So like if you're working with like a multi-joint bait like this, I call it my Papa Chug. It's just a real big wake bait, multi-jointed. I've got an articulating Lexane tail. You know, a bait like this, total handling time with the carving and everything can take me several hours. Some people can
sure,
do it
yeah,
faster, but you know, I guess I'm a slow poke when it comes to these things. But yeah, you know, some baits take a long time. I want to get into resin to kind of speed up the process a little bit on certain models of baits. But yeah, it's definitely a time-consuming hobby.
And what's
That's
your most challenging or part that you like least? And maybe that's it. Maybe is it the time commitment to them or what?
not necessarily the time. The one thing that gets me a lot is when I do a lot of these drops and I have to do the same bait over and over and over again. I start getting a little bored, and that's why I'm always,
Oh, okay,
even within batches of baits, I'll kind of do like a new bait, just work on something to kind of keep my creativity going. That way, I don't get too stagnant with it because I do this for fun. You know, this is mainly a hobby.
right,
Well, I would say
right,
it's more than a hobby; it's more of a passion. But I want to make sure that I can retain that enjoyment out of it and doesn't feel like work, doesn't feel like a job. Some people
sure,
make baits for a living, you know, more power to them. I don't know if I can ever take it to that level. We'll see though, you know, as long as I can have enough variety, I guess,
right.
based on the answer.
What David asked a good one. What is your best seller? What one do people ask for the most, or is there one that's kind of head and shoulders above all the others that has sold way more?
Yeah, so I've had my most success and most sales on my my original Sugarfoot mouse. You know, kind of the
Okay.
same one that I sent to you. Nice,
Mm-hmm.
you know, super clacky 2-piece mouse. I just got a lot. I get a lot of requests for it. And then lately, I've kind of been making this 3-piece weight called the Chug. I've got a couple of videos up on Instagram. Just a 3-piece kind of crank down, wake and crank. I've been having a lot of people, and it's kind of interesting. Sometimes on like, if you notice on like Instagram, you'll have these videos that get like a lot of views for some reason. You're like, why is this video so successful? I've got near like 100,000 views on like this one, and so I got like these people coming
Wow.
out the woodworks like, I want one, and so I'm doing a lot of these
That's
custom
good.
orders when I should
That's
just do like
good.
a big drop. So the Chug and the 2-piece Rat are my best sellers, but I do a lot of other baits and I kind of do a lot of one-offs for people. Um, but
What
those are
is
two.
what has been your most successful bait? Like out of all the ones you have, do you have one that's like, and one, it could be a one-off too. Like, do you have one that's been like, dude, I've caught so many on this one. It's my pride and joy.
Yeah, well, this Sugarfoot Rat right here, I put well over 100 bass on last year,
Oh
different size
crap.
bass,
Wow.
and it's you know, I've got a lot of hours, a lot of casts, and you know, I can tell you the finish on here is like almost like mint. You know, even the bill is doing well. So the Sugarfoot mouse, and then back when I was in Florida, I was doing a lot of
Do you use
glide
like
bait.
a UV? What do you coat with?
I do too. I do UV resin and I do a 2-part epoxy, depending on
Hmm.
the type of bait and what types of water it might go into. If I'm playing with salt water, I prefer epoxy. It's just a lot more durable. But for the freshwater baits, I use the UV resin. This one's got
Hmm.
UV, Illumi UV on it. Works just fine. So a lot of bass in terms of quantity. My Sugarfoot mouse. In terms of size, I've caught a lot of
Hmm.
nice big bass on my baby bass glide. So this is,
Really?
I haven't really sold any of these. I've given away a few, and I've kind of made them just for myself. But the biggest bass on a top banana lure bait was on this particular one right here, a 7.5 pounder in Florida. So just
Damn.
baby bass. The baby bass has come a long way.
That's
One of my
something that
first
gets
glide was a baby bass. Here's what a more newer version would look like.
the progression. I love it. And that's
A
part
little
of
bit
like
thinner.
growing as a maker. Like I've still got, this is actually this is the first crankbait I ever painted. And it's like he's got these like little Finding Nemo fins that didn't match, and like I tried to do the gills, and
I
it's
like that.
looks, yeah, somebody, yeah, I could have done worse, yeah, sure, but like you look at stuff now, and you know, that's so much part of the fun of the journey is looking back on those ones. You're like, wow, some of these were pretty bad that I made, but everybody starts from ground zero. You have to be willing to fail and have things that just don't turn out. And that's what stops so many people, just like YouTube or, you know, anything in life. Go for it, man. You live once.
One of my first
Yeah.
poppers I ever made. I mean, look at that thing. Look like my son made it. Got to start somewhere, man. I don't think I ever caught a fish on it. I just kind of saved it just because.
It honestly, with the big eyes, kind of reminds me of a jitterbug profile. If you put a blade on the front of it,
Put a blade or some wings on it, make
big
it a crawler.
Yeah,
Pop the crawler.
I dig that. Which I actually, oh my gosh, do you know Klondike Customs too? He's
Yeah,
a good guy.
yeah. He makes. Ooh,
Well,
my charger
knocking us
fell.
over.
Sorry.
Here, I'll show you.
Yeah, I am familiar with him. He makes a lot of cool wood stuff. He does a lot of traditional types of baits, traditional hardware. I really appreciate that. Excellent craftsmanship.
Yeah, so he's actually I think he's a woodworking teacher. He does like part of that in school. I don't know his whole
I saw that.
deal.
Like
Yeah,
classes and stuff
but
like that.
he made like one of these sweet, like, you know, just a walking bait with like a little prop
That's awesome.
in back. But he also sent me, speaking of a jitterbug, he does like, he actually hand turns all these on a lathe. If you've ever watched his videos, he hand turns all these on a lathe. And he sent me a like do it yourself kit. He's like, would you like to do one? And I'm like, hell yes,
That's
I would.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of people do that. That's really cool.
And then there you can see, so it'll end up being like a giant jitterbug, giant 2-piece or jointed. I'll have to cut this in half and do the thing. But he even labeled it. He even put little pieces of masking tape in there and labeled them. So that's one we're going to do. Man, I've got a couple different projects. I need to get my butt back in gear. But yeah, I love that, man. I love that, you know, people get into making their own stuff and lures, and it's a cool kind of underground thing to do. But even, you know, even if you're buying your own stuff, I mean, do you still fish traditional stuff? Because I know a lot of the swim bait guys, it's like, it's such a cult following that it's like, man, once you get into it, you're 100% into, man, I only like to throw glides and wakes and stuff, you know?
Yeah. Force feed the big baits, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on the conditions, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm fishing with my son and we're trying to cover water, like I've got a kayak, an Ascend H10, you know, it's pretty deep. I can get him in there. I'll throw this like a spinnerbait, like a War Eagle spinnerbait, 3/8 ounce, and then put a little single worm on for him, just so I can cover water and get more fish in the boat, so he can see more fish and things like that. Because if I'm just throwing big baits and big weight baits, I might only get on one bite, and so I want to make it a little bit more exciting for him. So that's when I'll switch back to conventional. Sure. Just want to get bit.
That's kind of the way I am. I basically still look at myself as a little child too, and I need to catch fish. So that's why I throw conventional stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of lake turn, I do from a saltwater standpoint, I do these big pelagic style poppers. I haven't finished these out yet, but Klondike would appreciate that. These returned on the lake as well. Some cypress wood. I make those. There's some guys out in Louisiana coming up, probably June. There's a lot of jackfish. Jack Crevel is the species name. They come in a Lake Pontchartrain.
Those, yeah. Are they like kind of the round? They're kind of the round looking jacks.
They look like a GT, like a giant trevally type of fish. You seen like those guys that fish in like Australia and stuff like that, rock fishing they call it. They'll throw big poppers like this on them. Super powerful fish, like pound for pound, like probably one of those strongest fish.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, like when you hook a big jack, they just run.
Yeah, they're like a grail find. Like if you're a collector of something specific, they're like one of the fish that if you're a fisherman offshore or whatever, or however you're fishing, that's like one that you gotta catch, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll do like a line through, like a cable through, wire through, so it's super durable.
Oh, like for your wire in the middle. Yep. Makes sense. I'm looking through. We have a ton of good questions. So we're at 40 minutes in. If you just are joining, thank you, everybody. Members, non-members, everybody watching. Appreciate the hell out of y'all. There will be a giveaway here coming up after the hour mark. We're about 40 minutes in now. So I think I'm going to open it up to some questions. Daniel, unless there's anything that you wanted to hit on. I know you brought some lures out. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. Guys and gals, take a look at his stuff. Hit him up on Top Banana Lures if you're looking for any of his swim baits, the rats. That's actually
spread.
Oh,
some of the different stuff I made.
Yes.
Okay. Progress photos over here, different things. If I got any Florida peeps on, You know, I do the mullets, the mullet glides. Got real popular in Florida, especially for the people throwing in like those canals for big snook and stuff like that. So I got a
Those look
bait called
pretty
the
crazy,
G6
too.
mullet that's real popular.
So as far as, let's see, let's get into questions. How heavy? So Mr. William Traxel was asking, how heavy are some of those? I think you kind of went through on a few of them.
Yeah, the biggest I had, some of my old gill glides went up to 6 ounces, but they're usually within like the 1 to 4 ounce range. So most swim bait rods will cover, they'll have like a lower end range, 1 to 4 ounce. So you can get away with that, you know, a good introductory type swim bait rod.
That's a really good point actually to touch on too. So I have the Dobbins Fury, the 8, I don't even remember what it was, 801 or whatever, or 790. I don't remember. It's the Dobbins swim bait rod. It's kind of they rate at I think 1 to 8 ounces, which I would never throw an 8 ounce on it. I throw like the 130 ploppers on it, and it works really good for those. So like I'm thinking up to like maybe 3 ounces, 4 ounces on that at most. But I don't know, maybe there's swim bait guys out there that are like, Debo, you're a sissy. But what
Yeah,
would
this
you
is the
recommend? Yeah, for
806,
like,
like this one. This is the
yes.
806. This one
Yeah,
goes to
806.
2 to 8 ounces.
2 to 8,
But
yeah.
It's designed for swim baits and big umbrella rigs, A rigs, whatever. I've thrown some. I don't know if there's any swim baiters on there. Hinkle shad. I've thrown some hinkle shads on this bait with no issues, and that's a big heavy bait. Probably pushing, you know, a good 6 or 7 ounces,
Oh,
and I
wow.
never felt, you know, stressed about it. The only time I ever felt stressed about throwing a big bait on a rod is when I first got into swim bait fishing. I didn't really have the rod. I had a heavy flipping type rod. It was actually from Academy. It was like one of those H2O Express, kind of just real cheap camo wrap on it. And I threw some pretty big baits and got away with it. The only reason I don't have that rod anymore is because I tried to bank flip like a 9.5 pounder and it broke the rod in the process. But yeah.
Must be nice.
Definitely need to have the gear.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah. I did get the fish though, because I was running some pretty big monofilament. So I still was able to keep the fish.
So being a Southern guy, what's your PB? Have you broke the double digit mark?
Yeah, so my biggest was a 10 pound 4 ounce. Caught that at night in Florida fishing a soft bait, a unique swim bait. So this guy out in Irving, California his name's Gene Yoon. He makes unique baits. That's the name of his company.
Oh, I've heard of his. Yeah.
And he makes a weedless one called the Scout. It's a regular Scout in great purple, like just a dark color. Worked great at night fishing there for Florida. I caught several 8, 9, and then my double digit on that bait.
Damn. I need to get moving and driving around if I'm going to catch a double digit. Here in Iowa, I think our state record is 10 pounds. Like, is it even over 10.5, 10 pounds, 7 ounces, something like that? It's nothing.
I thought it's not 12, it's 10 something, right?
It's 10 something. Yeah, it's 10.
Yeah,
I don't think it's even over 10.5. I think it's like 10 pounds, 7 ounces.
Missouri's got 13. I think that could be broken, you know, especially with like the updates in technology, forward face and sonar. I wouldn't be surprised if Missouri state record is broken soon.
Have you messed with Balsa much? Brendan asked.
When I first got started, I played around with Balsa. I made a couple of poppers, a couple of crankbaits. It's really soft. So you gotta prep it good, seal it good, and get a nice hard epoxy on it for it to work. But it's great for crankbaits because it's super buoyant. So if you got a good bill on there, you can get it down real deep and it'll float back up really quick.
Yeah, especially for bank anglers. If you haven't spent spent time throwing let's see, and I have one here. If, as a bank angler, you haven't thrown those, it's something that can really help. And speaking of technology coming along, something like the Chick Magnet or the Fritzside 5, these are ABS, like the plastic baits that are made to mimic balsa, and it literally will. You'll hear people talking about, running a square bow or a balsa bait, running it into stuff, and it will back out, and they literally will. So as a bank angler, some of them may cost a little bit more. You grab some of these on sale and stuff, but some of these are like the what is that? The OTS OG6, the OG4 Tiny. When they hit something and you stop, they literally will kind of back up a little bit, so you can get them to go back over things. You'll hear them like steering or driving a balsa bait through cover. That's kind of what they're talking about. You can kind of get them to weave in and hit stuff and come back over it. So something to try if you're a bank angler having trouble with, hanging some of those up in brush or wood if you fish a lot of square bills or that kind of thing. The Rolo actually is going to be a new one that I'm excited to try. Do I have any over here? So it's the square bill version of the Otts Garage OG6. Actually, I'll go grab one. You've got one. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I was
Share
gonna
yours.
say,
I'm going to go.
recommend for something that's readily available. I don't know if you're familiar with the Rapala BX Brat or just a regular BX. That's a balsa wood body. It's got that
Yes,
modified
that's a good
square
one.
bill. That's a great bait. Eat
I did,
12
Debo.
bucks.
Didn't I stick one of those in your leg once?
For those that want like an economical wake bait to kind of start getting into throwing bigger baits, they got this Fastway Guild. There's a guy in Florida that wraps these blanks. That's a great little bait for like 25, 30 bucks.
Dang.
This was one of my
That's
first
pretty
wakes.
sweet.
A nice little rattle on it.
Yeah, the Brats are a really good one. Yes, Randy, you did stick one of those in the back of my leg. And Matt, I don't know, Matt, if you're watching, bless his soul, he's a silly ISU fan. I don't know what the hell's wrong with him, but I can't give him crap. He actually played football for the Cyclones, so he's a big dude. He would pick me up over his head and throw me in. But that's the new Otts Garage Rolo. Is it 6 or Rollo or Rocco? I'm sorry. Goodness gracious, the Rocco 5. So that's the new square bill version that they've made. So it's like your DTs. DT is another good balsa bait to throw. But yeah, I'm excited to throw this one. Give it a try with that square bill, bounce it off stuff. And
Somebody had a question. Well, first of all, this Matt Nash question is a pretty good one. I don't know how to answer that one whatsoever.
Daniel.
Yeah, so
that's for you, sir.
Rat bite at night, how to retrieve it, when to expect the bite. So I like to start kind of slow and steady. If the water is warm, just kind of cast it out. A lot of these 2-piece baits, you'll kind of hear that clack. You can hear the click. And so I try to get a little rhythm. And then I find like there's certain times like a rhythm might actually trigger more bites. Like listen to the click, like click, 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 or speed it up or slow it down. If it's a little more pressure or the water is cooler, cast it out, wake it a little bit. And then I'll preface this. Anytime you cast and you got a big heavy bait and it hits the water with a big splash, give it a good 10 to 15 seconds. Let the kind of ripples dissipate because that kind of alerts the bass. Sometimes it alarms them in a bad way. So just kind of let that settle a little bit and then start creeping it along. But another way is to just stop it, kind of pop it a little bit like you're walking it. You'll get it to shimmy back and forth and just stop and just let it sit. Then maybe give it just a little twitch. Because if they got something underneath it that's watching it, and if it's moving too much, it might turn off the bite. But sometimes if they're watching it and they come up on it and you give it just one little subtle twitch, they'll crush it. Sometimes they blow up on it, but a lot of times with these terrestrial style baits, they'll just kind of swipe at it. Because the bass will know if they grab like a rat, the first thing a rat's going to do is going to want to claw its face and claw its eyes and things like that. And so unless it's a big bass and they inhale it, the smaller bass will just kind of take a couple of swipes at it. So don't be afraid to keep the retrieve up, keep the twitching up, and don't like just reel in as soon as you get a bite.
Debo, 823 Japan USA Tackle Addict 101. Working with balsa, does balsa wood crack or bruise over time?
With balsa baits, I don't have too much experience with balsa. I've done some balsa corks and stuff like that. As long as you're careful with it, it's just it breaks a lot more easily. You gotta be careful with carving. I rather sand it to get the shape I want. Use your carving knives to get the general shape, but use sanding tools to get it down and nice and smooth. As long as it's sealed and you got a nice epoxy on it, it'll stand the test of time.
Yeah, and with balsa baits, another thing too, especially like these, they don't have a big, thick epoxy coat and stuff on them. If you're a bait slapper, you'll learn real quick not to slap baits if you fish balsa. Like you've got some moss on it and you smack it on the water to, get it off. Don't do that with your balsa. I don't do it with any. I don't advise doing it with anything as far as cranks.
Any kind of lipped cranks, you should never do that. I don't know how many. I should have learned my lesson after the first time I did it, but the 10th time I've done it afterwards, I still haven't learned my lesson. I need to do better.
Yeah, Gambit, that's a good point too. Yeah, the Brats, they've got the think they've got a smaller one too. Well, actually, I've got it brought up here, but yeah, I did pick up a couple of the larger brats, and I really like those as well. I feel like people shy away from the 2.5 size cranks. And I would it's at the bigger brats, probably a little bit bigger than a 2.5, but especially for bank fishing, being able to get it out there, whip it out there a little bit quicker, or farther, as opposed to like a little 1.0 or a 1.5, especially on a windy day. You don't have the power of a boat. I don't know what the right word is. Availability of a boat, to just go wherever you want. So sometimes those 2.5s, you really can kick out there a little bit farther, cover a little bit more water. But I will bring that up here and look.
Yeah, those the big BS bracts. A little trick here. What you can do is cast this out, keep your rod tip up, and retrieve it slow. It becomes a wake bait.
Oh, okay.
So give it a little more versatility in that bait.
Let's see let's see. There's the
some
big
good conversation going on here with the biggest bass and in the United, or not the United States, but the world. But there's somebody pointed out that there's like a big thing about how they smuggled in bass into Japan, and that's how they got the biggest one in there. That sounds like I want to find some kind of documentary about that.
I would challenge that and say, look up some history on Cuba. They smuggle bass into Cuba as well. And there's reports of some mid-20s to even close to 30-pound bass being caught and ate out of Cuba.
Are you thinking hippos? There's actually hippos that were smuggled in. Maybe you're thinking of hippos instead. Those bass are too big to be bass if they're.
Those are cocaine 25. Hippos, and they were Pablo Escobar's.
And what's crazy is there's like some history blurbs out there. I forgot the guy who originally posted it. It wasn't too long ago. But they said they were melting down tire rubber to make worms. Just anything that replicates.
I saw that.
So I forgot the link on Instagram. But if you want to learn a little bit about big bass history, I'd go on the Facebook double digit bass page. Guy I know, Jason Flesher, runs it. He's got some really cool history on like big baits and big bass and history of it.
So Art, I would say Art has an interesting one here. It said a new trickworm scam. I heard the original trickworm for a floating worm rig. I received the super salty. The super salty sink twice as fast. Yes, and they do have two different types. So I don't know if that was a mispackage by somebody getting those ready, but they do have the original regular and then like the salted. And I don't know if it's when you go into it how they have them split out. But yes, there are the ones that are the salted and then the regular. So I don't know. That could have very well been a mistake when they packed that. But
I noticed that a little bit because I use those the Zoom worms on my smaller rats. And if I get the salty ones, it'll tangle on the back hook. I got to make sure I get the floating ones.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point. I guess I don't know. I have not bought these in a long time. I guess I thought they had them split out. Yeah, because you'll see the ones that say like super salty or salt plus up in the top right corner of it versus just the regular. And let me look here. That's kind of a good point for folks if you've never bought one. Looking through here. Sorry.
Yeah, actually, I got some super salt bubble gum here. I need to be careful with those.
Yeah, I don't know how they split those out. Actually, that's a really good point. I don't know if you have to.
Got the original. You got to get the original. That's what it says on the pack, the original.
Yeah, that's a good point. These don't say. I don't know, chat, help us out. Somebody in chat probably knows a lot more than me on this, but I don't know. I know they have both. I thought when you went here, they had them split out. Good question, Art. Somebody else will in chat will probably set us straight, though. I don't know. Okay, what else do we have for questions? So we're at 54 minutes in, 281 beautiful folks watching. I appreciate you all. What do we got for questions here? Daniel, if you've seen anything that you wanted to answer or get into, certainly.
Yeah, I can only see when they pop up on the thing. I don't know if it's in real
time. Oh, when I pop up? Okay. Yeah. Oh, here's a good one. I've painted these. I've sent these out to a few folks that I trust to tell me how they do. But what's your take on the knockoff tiny clash baits? Have you ever used them?
I
So
haven't
what
used
he's
the
talking
tiny.
about,
Go ahead.
I
Sorry.
was going to say, what Brian's talking about is if you're somebody like me, I don't make baits, I just paint baits. So I buy blanks. You can get like original blanks, like LureNet. I've bought some of the actual Zara spooks, like the actual blanks that they use. Other times you can just get replica blanks that have been made, and a lot of them are really close. Some of them not so much. Some of them suck pretty bad. So yeah, have you used any of those, the knockoff clashes? Your thoughts on them?
I haven't used the knockoff. I used to own a couple of Tiny Clash TKs, and they got the Clash 9 and Ghost and all those other things.
Mhm.
If you're just painting baits, I mean, they're readily available. I mean, I'm all about supporting the original builder in that right. But I mean, if you're just painting baits and you're having fun with it, I mean, you can paint whatever you want. I mean, find something. But as far as the action goes, I would say the OG is going to always have produce the best action. I've seen some of the knockoff brand swims, and yeah, it swims. But if you see the originals, you see, okay, wow, that's why it's different. That's why there's such a price difference and everything like that.
Yep, yeah, and I had Matthew, if he's in here. I've had a couple other guys test them out that fish big swim baits, and there will be little differences. Like gosh, I forget what Matthew said. Matthew, I don't know if you're still in here. He said one was better at gliding, but one did like the S motion better, and I forget which was which. It was probably the knockoff was a little bit better at like the walking type motion. But yeah, I mean the originals are that for a reason. Now I've tested the TKs, the smaller or the knockoffs, and I'm not selling them for $100 or whatever that you would get a TK for now. So that's the other thing is you can kind of dip your feet into it. I think I've sold them on my website for 39, something like that. Dip your feet into it, and then if you think, man, this is pretty sweet, I want to get one of the originals, then you can go spend that 150 bucks on one of the originals. But yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because that's honestly why I haven't been painting as much. There's a bunch of people that are out there that are really, really talented with painting. And some people, like the purists, look down on people like me that just paint baits, right? That just get blanks and paint them. I kind of had an argument with somebody a while back about that of, why would I buy one of your baits? And actually, this was another maker that said, why would people buy your baits? That you've just put paint on versus going out and buying like a Rapala or something. I'm like, dude, that's a great point. Like you can go buy a Rapala for $5, one of these $6-7. You're getting a balsa bait, good colors. For somebody that wants something a little bit crazy or different, one of a kind, that's kind of where the custom stuff comes into play. And the blanks that I use, I always get the good ones. I don't get like the super cheap, 30-cent ones, because even a square bill, like, so this is like an actual Strike King one. There's different levels of these square bills that you can get. I get like the $2 high quality ones. Do It, has some now that they've tested a bunch. And there's some you can find that are like 30-40 cents that, maybe every third one doesn't swim right. So, there's different levels to that stuff. Some people prefer the stuff that you make. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
it's an interesting deal. I feel like a lot of the purist swim baiters are pretty hardcore into that stuff. So
Yeah, well, they want to support their homies, so to speak. The in the
right.
swim bait world, it's a pretty big group, but it's pretty tight knit as well. And so you have a lot of these garage builders where you start building a following, and people become loyal to that. And then when you have like a knockoff that comes out, I won't name any recent company names, but a lot of people get a little offended by it, and
Yep.
put some resistance up against. But for people just getting into painting and they want something to go by, I mean, I don't see anything that's wrong with it. I used to buy like the little lure parts online, the little cheap square
Yeah.
bill stuff just to get started, try to figure out how to paint. And, they didn't swim great. But once I started getting like some of like the Mega Bass knockoffs, I've painted some knockoff baits as well back in the day.
Yep.
And never sold them. I just gave them away. Took up a couple for myself. But they're
That's
out there and
W12.
they're available, so I don't see the issue.
Yep. Tree Pounder asked a good one. I have a special place in my heart for anything frog related. Have you ever done any frog baits?
Got one right here, buddy.
Oh, hold on. Let me enlarge you here. I'm a huge huge frog guy. Let's see that one again.
I've been wanting to do a frog for a while, and I've kind of going back and forth with different designs. But just recently, I've kind of got into like amphibian and reptile and creature style baits. But this was kind of my first stab at like a frog style bait. And so,
Oh yeah,
made out of poplar wood. I've got the skirt. A lot of people do the skirt on the detail there, so that's not novel. But one thing that is novel about mine is I have a built-in knocker. I don't know if you can hear that.
ah,
So I made a small version. I'm actually working on a little bit bigger version as well. So this is my Dusky frog, and this is my my big D, I call it, or heavy D. So heavy Dusky. Listen to the knocker on this one.
oh yeah.
It's got a super clacky tail. I haven't finished it yet, but it's
That's sweet.
incredible. Got that leopard on the belly and everything.
I can get behind that. I like it.
I tried to do like a lizard style bait recently. Came out okay. It swims all right, but I'm not happy with it. But I think this one's going to be money.
How about any
I love
spiders?
frogs.
Have you done any spider lures?
I haven't done spiders. I used to have one of those
Okay, good.
hunt
Don't.
spider things.
Yeah,
At one
good.
point,
Don't.
I found it on the ground, and hookup ratios were terrible on it. But they'll hit it. But,
oh my god! Well, I haven't even
saw
had
Nate
hit it.
Marling
So.
did one of those predator things recently.
Oh god, dude! That was the coolest thing I freaking saw. I'm a huge Aliens. The second one is one of the best. It's one of my top 10 lures out there, or top 10 movies out there. When I saw he did that lure, I was like, yes, Stubby, I'm live. Quit jingle jangling back there. Good lord.
Yeah, I love frog.
Yeah.
I love frog baits. I do a lot of hollow body frog in the spring too. Actually.
Yes, my favorite. Okay, that's okay. Here's a good question too. Let's say you're not fishing your swim baits and stuff, because obviously it's a super cool thing to catch fish on a bait you made. The conventional stuff. What is your favorite thing to fish, and what is the thing that you'd rather have your fingernails ripped off than have to fish it?
My favorite thing to fish conventional wise.
Mm-hmm.
I love spinner baits. You know, big spinner baits, like 3/8 ounce, half ounce, up to an ounce. Deep water, slow roll in, fast roll in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably my favorite thing to throw. I love big worms as well, like gigantic worms, 10-inch,
Mm-hmm.
12-inch, some of those mans. I don't know how long they are, like 20.
Oh, dude. The
old school mans.
The jelly worm. It was the man's jelly worm. Check out
They
these.
smell good. You want to eat them? They smell so good.
Look at those babies. They're, I think, 9-inch worms.
Yeah. I used to make my own open pore worm. It was a big curly tail. I call it my big ugly worm. It was like 17 inches long. Caught some nice bass on.
Damn. Yeah, I want to throw these. I think, was it Will? Will, are you in here? I think Will sent me these. Purple, old school big man's jelly worms. Dude, talk about awesome. I brought those out with me last year once. I didn't throw them, but I need to this year. Okay, so that's your favorite. What is what bait do you despise tying on, but you do it because it'll catch fish?
Yeah, that's a hard one, because just being out fishing with anything, if they're biting on something, I'm not going to discriminate a certain piece of tackle if that's what's catching me fish. But I guess if I had to think back, God, that's a tough one. That's a good question. I'm trying to think. Some of the swim baits I throw. One thing that I just don't have as much confidence in is some of like the crank down type swim baits, because I'm just big on top water. I'm big on like glide baits and soft plastics, but kind of like the middle column of the water, like those crank downs. I don't know. I don't despise it, but I'm not as confident, I would say. But yeah, I don't know from the conventional world. Maybe just crankbaits. I don't know. I love spinner baits and worms so much. I think crankbaits would be like maybe the ones that I'm just like, maybe it's just not as enjoyable for me.
That's interesting. Being a swim bait guy, I guess I wouldn't put those two together. I would think that would be like one of your more favorites.
Yeah,
I don't know
like
why,
either
but
on the top or on the bottom, maybe within 10 feet, but somewhere in the middle. Probably because I've broken off a lot of crankbaits. And I've broken off some nice crankbaits, like some 10XDs and stuff like that. I would try to force feed them, but I just haven't caught a lot on crankbaits.
Randall Pink Floyd asked a good question. We kind of went over a couple of your combos, or I guess the Dobbins, but what do you use for like line on some of these? So I think the smaller rat you said weighs, what'd you say, ounce and 3/4?
1.5 ounce up to 2 ounce, 2.5 to 3 ounce for the mid size, up to 4.5, 5 ounce for the big ones.
So let's
Yeah,
say
line.
like those smaller two, what line do you normally use for, let's say, the smaller up to like a 3-ounce rat?
So here's where you get a lot of discussion with the swim bait world, what line to use. You have some people that are like, braid to like some type of shock mono leader. But I'm a big copoly fan. I love running copoly on like a stiff rod.
Like the CXX?
Yeah, so the
You ever do that?
CXS from P line. I also like the Iser line copoly. That's a good one. It's inexpensive as well. But you got to think about it. If you got like a copoly, it's got a good bit of stretch. You need to have a little bit more backbone in your rod. If you got like a heavy, or I would say a moderate fast action rod and like some stretchy copoly, that's really going to affect your ability to set hooks on fish. Now, if you're fishing with troubled baits, you don't have to set hooks. You just have to kind of keep pressure, kind of lean into them a little bit, and let the hooks do the work for you. But a good moderate to fast, a heavy fast action with like a copoly is a good combination. But yeah, I'm a big fan of copoly. Good maybe 15 to 25 pound, depending on your application and weight.
That's what I was going to ask, size. Okay, yep. So like the smaller ones, you're good using 15-pound copoly on those, and
yeah,
and it's
a real small bait. You can even run some trying to think the name of the brand,
like mono, like a 12-pound mono or something.
Mono works great. Even like big game, like for like a weight bait applied.
Yep, that's another big one. Yeah, and like the thing with the like the P-line CXX, because people ask me about that, it's not a soft line. It doesn't cast really well. Like if you're trying to do light stuff with it, with those heavier baits, with that, with that bigger weight with it, you don't notice it as much because you've got constant tension the whole time. As you're just gliding it or reeling it in, you don't notice it as much as if you were to try to go with like the 15-pound CXX and try to do like a worm or something on it. You can feel that heavy, like just go to a straight fluoro if you're doing work, go to like, Invisex or like, for P-line, like the tactical is what I like. But yeah, that what are you doing down here? Get out of there. The CXX is super tough stuff, super, super strong. Copoly.
Yeah, fluoro and braid are good for like soft baits where you need a good hook set and you got a single hook that you're working with. But yeah, there's some people that run straight braid with swim baits and I don't care.
I've heard that too. It's like I don't know. I don't even know.
I know a guy in Florida. I'm not gonna mention his name, but he runs straight braid, and he throws big weight baits and stuff. Because his big thing is like, I'm gonna stick these big, potentially a trophy fish, state record fish. I'm gonna get in the boat as fast as possible, and if my bait breaks off, so be it. So different mindsets. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different philosophies behind that. If you buy like a nice bait and you're hesitant to fish it, and then you're likely not going to catch fish on it. But Mike Gilbert, a big guy in the swim bait realm, kind of mentions that like once you buy that, consider it gone already. Meaning that when you
fish it like you already lost it.
Yeah, just fish it and be confident with it and take risk with it, and then let the bait do the work, because the big bait will draw out some big bites, and it's a good beacon for fish to try to figure out what's in your area, like a big glide bait, because there's always followers whether they hit it or not to come back to the boat.
Yep. Let's see. I was looking through other questions. Man, there's a ton of good people talking about crankbaits. My guy Dustin talking about stuff. Couldn't find any. Yep. Some more swim bait questions.
So my rig I've been using lately, I've been testing a lot of baits out on this one. I go back and forth between my I have an F5. I have a couple F5 rods, but I like this rod right here. It's I've been playing around with crawlers, but nonetheless, I've got this iRod Gen 3 Junior swim bait. It's a good 1 to 4 ounce rod. I've got my big 300, but like a 200 Tatula would work great with some 20-pound copoly.
They're built like tanks too.
Crawlers, because I'm trying to make some crawlers. I'm trying to refresh my memory on the action.
Yeah, I am not a crawler guy. I have one of the Pompadour Juniors that, gosh, was that Chaunch or G Fan? God, I don't remember who sent
That's
me
what this
that.
is right here. Or maybe it's the regular
Mhm.
size pompadour. That's a good
Yeah,
little
they're
bait,
interesting.
man. I love the sound of it. Like, clunk, 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 clunk.
They are, man. They are very interesting.
little,
I ran into a dude on my local lake that said he caught a 7.5 on my local lake with the Pompadour. I've not caught one on it, but they do sound very interesting. When I see them, I think of like a muskie or like a pike bait.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't caught either on it, but I don't know. Yeah, they are strange little lures. Let's see, jitterbugs. Yes, jitterbugs still work great. I mean, I haven't thrown a jitterbug for some time. I need to do an all-out old school, old Rebel Pop R, old jitterbug. Like I've talked about it a
Get
bajillion
you a
times on
jointed
live.
2-piece jitterbug. Those things are killer.
See, I was never a fan of the like I had one and tried it, but growing up it was always just the one piece black
A
or
little
the leopard
longer.
frog.
I like it because it's got a little bit more weight to it, and you can really cast it far. And it's
Yeah,
not
see,
that.
I always threw them on a spinning rig when I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still work. I mean, and I think actually they redid. I think I have one. They redid the jitterbug, the 2-piece, has like a fancy tail feather and all that stuff on it now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what do you got for questions? Let's do our giveaway. We're at an hour 10. Hit me with your questions. Let me know what we got out there. So people talking about some of the crawlers, F5 stuff.
I'm just gonna
Brennan said
create a
he's
little
got some of
disturbance here.
those.
Here's a little crab wake bait I'm working on.
That's awesome.
For my saltwater
Little
guys and gals.
Crabbler. Daniel, what's the biggest, I think you meant to say bait you've made so far? What's like the biggest one you've done? There it
Biggest
is.
weight wise, when I started making some of these big 3-piece rats out of like hardwood, like this one's made out of mahogany, they get pretty heavy, like 5 or 6 ounces. Oh, I can't believe I didn't think about this. Grab the seat of your pants. I'm gonna show you the biggest bait you've ever seen.
Uh-oh. I have triple digits on Pompadour. Damn. Good stuff.
So being from South Louisiana, one of the big rodents down there is a nutria, right? You ever heard of a nutria?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Kind of like a beaver.
Swamp rat.
They're invasive. I wanted to make a juvenile nutria bait just in memory of being in Louisiana. So here's like one of the biggest rats you've ever seen.
Holy crap.
20 ounces.
Oh my.
Jesus, dude.
It's like,
That's pretty cool.
I thought someone
That's
that fishes
pretty
like
cool.
muskie might be able to hit something on this. But I made it.
Dude, I bet.
Fun.
Dude, those 40-inch
Yeah.
muskies, one of my favorite muskie stories is I was fishing shallow grass. It's even got the teeth and all. That's sick as hell, man.
That's the biggest bait I've ever made. Can't believe I almost forgot about it. It's been so long since I made it.
Yeah, one of the coolest muskie stories I have is and you've seen them like on Instagram. I didn't get it on tape. But I was fishing one of my local lakes that has a bunch of really good muskie in it. They drew it down because they were redoing like bank access and fishing structure. They put in a bunch of jetties. Drew it all down, and it was so fun fishing it because it's a decent sized lake and you could walk almost all the way around it. So where they dropped it down, they had a bunch of I don't even know what the hell it was, grass and reedy type stuff growing up in there. And I was fishing a swim jig back in it and had caught a few white bass, hybrid bass doing that, and it was a pretty good bite. And I ended up catching one back in there. I saw it come up, you feel the weeds, and I'm bringing it through. I'm like, oh man, this is a pretty decent one. I was catching like 1.5 pound, 2 pound hybrids, which are a ton of fun to catch. And bringing it through, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I am stuck. Like I can barely get it through. And I'm like, crank and get it through. Then it starts coming. I'm like, oh, okay, I bet I've got some stuff on it. As it comes up, it's a big, huge muskie, probably higher 30s, just barely swimming with it. And it's got that hybrid, T-boned in its mouth, just swimming with it. I'm like, oh my God, dude, if I can get this in, this would be insane. And I fought it for like 10 seconds and then it just head shook, snapped it. And then it just nonchalant trolls off with my big, white bass hybrid in its mouth. Just like, yeah, nothing happened. Oh, the days.
Bass in Florida I caught like a 4-pounder, and I had a bass probably about 13, 14 pounds. Came up and T-boned it right in front of me.
Damn, dude. Yeah, actually, I was actually just talking to Daniel about this. Southern Iowa, yeah, Lake Sagima. That's one that I grew up fishing as a kid. Randy and I went to it. Gosh, I don't know. Our buddy, I don't think he even watches anymore. But we met a dude down there, and we timed it just right where every snake in the state of Iowa was under all the docks and all the rock work coming out, and he was terrified of snakes. So it was kind of funny. We still refer to it as the snake day. In fact, that was one of the days where I had caught I don't even remember what it was. I had caught a few bass, and there was a snake that come up from the rocks. You know, all the little bluegill and stuff were coming up in the rocks. Come up and grab one of the bluegill and was swimming with it in its mouth. You know, had just grabbed some. Man, there were snakes.
Or those water snakes
Everywhere. Yeah, those water snakes. Yep. It is crazy. Okay, let's get a giveaway going here. I will bring this up on my side. So are you still doing? Are you throwing one in? I'll compensate you for it if you want to throw one in. I'll throw you some dough on.
Trying to think about what I want to throw in. I can take anything. I got a couple of these 3-piece rats I've been working on. I don't know. Maybe I'll throw in a Wrigley's rat, one of my 3 pieces, or do a popper.
Yeah, I'll kind of leave it open, man. Hashtag.
Do a 3-piece rat. Put a blank ready to go. I'll make whatever. Or I'll surprise you.
Let's just do. Oh, somebody's already got it. How the hell did somebody already guess what I was going to do? The hashtag Nutria. That's not what it is. It's. Let me get my.
That's an end of one. I don't know if I'd make more of those. Went through a lot of resources in that thing.
Hashtag bait. Let's keep it not too hard for Daniel. I would say like a rat or a popper or something. I don't know how you want to do that, but it's not going to be a Nutra or some giant $1,000 lure for him. And if it is, I will compensate him and hook him up. But
must be present to win.
Yes, must be present to win. Yep. And I'm going to open it up to anybody because it's such a cool giveaway. I will pay the extra to ship it to Canada. If you are a Canadian brethren, Usama, who was in the emergency room getting the hooks out of his fingers, said he was in the ER getting treble hooks out of his fingers. But he won. He actually got my package. Good dude. He's been asking forever to buy some of my lures, so I hooked him up. He won a giveaway. Gosh, what was that? Probably a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. So I hooked him up. But Canadian brethren and sisterin, we'll open it up to y'all too, whoever wins. You do have to be present though. That is the one catch. You have to be present when we do the giveaway. So
Randall Peak Floyd just hashtag Josh always wins.
Yeah, Josh. I mean, if Josh gets it, I mean, he
always win these giveaways, right? In the raffle, you know, people.
I don't know how.
Some people just win.
I give him. Oh, there he is. Oh no, I did not. Got my jerkbait back. So it must have been a jerkbait in his hand. Damn, that's always fun. Finally got all the hooks out. There he is.
I've only had one hook ever in my body. It was when I stepped on a treble hook by accident. But I've never had a hook in my hand or anything, and I've thrown a lot of baits.
I've had a couple in my hands. Yeah, and I think he said earlier that it was a dink that did it. Yeah, they are those little 1-pounders that just go absolutely ballistic when you get them in. I think Wild Japan said, yeah, Nutria are pain invasive. I think some people eat them too, don't they? Some people eat Nutria down there.
People in South Louisiana eat them like crazy. Yeah, get all the glands like a raccoon. You gotta get all the glands out of them and everything. But
yeah, that's what I've heard.
There like a
swamp?
There's like a what's it called? Like is that the ones that you can cut the tails off and take them in for like a bounty essentially for basically killing them because they're so invasive? Or is that something else?
Maybe they have that now, but yeah, they were introduced to South Louisiana, and they eat a lot of the marsh grass, which is contributing to a lot of the erosion. So
that's the same thing with. Yeah, I didn't realize that was the same problem they're having in Florida with the iguanas because they'll like bury in and do the holes and stuff on the sides, and then they just
terrible.
Yeah, that's
nuts. Cool thing about Florida in the wintertime, the temperatures dropped. low enough on the weather forecast, they would have like an iguana like upside down with a down arrow. You get these iguana drops. They would drop from trees
Yeah.
and fall on the interstate and stuff like
Jeez.
that.
The same thing too. They have the bounties on the constrictors down there. You know, like your
Oh,
boas
yeah.
and
Boa
pythons and stuff
constrictors,
because
yeah.
they're so
That's scary.
invasive.
Those some super aggressive. They're like hybrids. They're super aggressive.
Yeah, man. I've owned, gosh, for the longest time I had snakes. I had a red tail, which I mean, in the scheme of things, isn't that big, but he was like 8 foot, and like, I mean, the power. I mean, it's just one big muscle. So it's like, you know, you get one of those, you know, 15 footers that are down there. That's, you know, they can eat it. You know, dogs, small dogs. You've shown pictures of them, or they've shown pictures of them on, you know, the internet where they're eating alligators and stuff down there, and they'll pop open, you know, from where it's just too much. Yeah, it's nuts, man. Let's see. So we got our hashtag bait giveaway. Let us know. We've kind of derailed here a little bit talking about boas eating alligators down in the swamps, but
I'm gonna give away one
what
of my
else do we have?
3-piece rats. That's what I'm gonna do.
Okay, 3-piece rat. There it is. It's a 3-piece rat for anybody. Enter to win. Hashtag bait. I will bring up my screen again. Okay, we got 163 folks entered. I'll give you a couple more minutes here. Somebody else said Joshua better not win. I cannot win again, he said. Joshua, I mean, if you win again, I don't know what the hell we'll do, but I hooked him up because, see, the thing is, I give Joshua crap, but you can't win unless you're actually here watching. And I got to give the dude credit and tip my hat because he is always here watching, hanging out with us. So, let's see. What else do we have? People talking about hooks in the hands.
Just a lot of people
also used
talking
for
about
fur. I never thought about that.
like all the invasive species. So like you sit and think about it, Debo. I know around here anyway, we had brittle braid. So it's not an animal per se, it's a vegetation. The brittle braid that comes up, it's that really thin, brittle weed basically that grows. And you know, that stuff is horrible because once it gets in the lake, it's just everywhere.
Is that all like slimy, like type grass? Like
No, it's more like, God, it's almost like
probably algae.
like a longer, stringier, kind of like a seaweed, if you will, but it's thinner and it's very, very, very brittle. Like, so if you were to just be like, say, swimming in the water or something like that, or running your bait through the water and you go through some brittle braid, it's gonna like, you're gonna catch all of it and it's gonna all break off. And the bad thing is people don't check their boats well enough. And, you know, aquatic hitchhikers passing it along lake to lake.
Yeah, wash your boat.
Yeah, we got a lot
Okay,
of
we have
people.
100.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just say we have 172 entered. Last call. Last call. We're gonna do the giveaway, and then we'll go into some questions. I know we kind of skipped over some questions, so we'll get to some more of that, and we can even do you know, conventional stuff. Just kind of open it up to everything for another maybe 15-20 minutes.
Hey, Debo,
good
before
point.
you run it, don't run it yet. I was really disappointed you didn't do a rats for the hashtag with the Z.
Rats. Ghost song Rats. That was one of mine and Randy's theme songs to
Be
Fishing
back
for the
just
Day.
a second.
Okay. Also, what is the other one? The Who, HU. They're a Mongolian band. Uve. If you guys haven't listened to it, I can't
play
stand
like
it or understand a damn thing they're saying because they're Mongolian rock band. Love the
a
song. though.
stand-up 3-string guitar.
Yeah, I don't know. They're an interesting band, but we digress. This is a fishing show. We'll have to do a members only again and get into boas eating alligators and Mongolian rock bands. Daniel's social media is Top Banana Lures on Instagram. I don't know if he has Facebook and stuff. I don't do Facebook. I don't touch it. But Instagram is where I would hook him, or where I would look him up. Top Banana Lures. Oh, Elliot saw him open up for Megadeth. Hell yeah. Yeah, Mongolian throat metal. They are some interesting dudes. Okay.
I got
So what did you say? Don't draw because, or don't pull a winner because of what? I'm going to pull one now.
No, go for it. I just wanted to bring up whatever I just said a second ago.
Oh, what did you say it?
Yeah, we talked about it. I don't remember what. Oh, rats.
Oh,
Talking about
yes,
heavy
that's right.
metal.
Yeah, we're talking about some metal.
I love
Okay,
metal.
I'm going to pull a winner right now. We got 176 entered. I am sharing right. Okay, thank goodness for a tree piece rat from Daniel. Nice enough to do that. I appreciate that a ton.
Maybe I should do a 2-piece.
Tom Gross. I'll let Tom decide. Tom is a great watcher of the channel, always on, good subscriber. So
Yeah.
Tom,
You can have
2-piece,
any rat he wants.
3-piece,
Tom, if
whatever
you're
rat
here,
you want. He's here. He always comments on the
I'm watching.
the
I'm
videos
waiting.
too.
Yeah, whatever rat Tom wants. 1-piece, 2-piece, 3-piece, big, small, whatever. Not the big nutrient.
Debo, put your email up too.
Whatever he tells you.
Tom's here, 902. Tom, you're gonna need to send a
Tom,
picture of your thing, your picture here on the old YouTubes to Debo to make sure
might want to
that.
rephrase that. Yeah. Tom, don't send me a picture of your thing. Send me a picture, a screenshot of your YouTube so I know it's you and your address. Let's see. Okay, somebody was asking about, oh, here. I think somebody asked about Denali too. Have you used any Denali rods, Daniel?
I haven't.
That's one I need to get into. I haven't either.
They got a lot of swim bait rods out, with the resurgence of not resurgence, but kind of the migration of swim baits from like the West Coast to pretty much all across the country now. A lot of these manufacturers have swim bait rods now. But I would say they're all right as long as you got the rating. I've tried different things. I've had success and I've had some failures with different swim bait rods. But at the end of the day, if you're not doing anything completely stupid, you're probably okay as long as you're within the rod rating for the lure.
And also, you're kind of more lobbing them too, right? It's not as much of a like. With the heavier bait,
casting, yeah, a lot of casting. A lot of people, if you're bomb casting swim baits, make sure you do some nice controlled overhead casting. A lot of the side casting is where you put a lot of torque on the rod. But if it's rated for the lure that you're throwing, it doesn't matter what type of casting you do. But,
right. Yeah, I was saying, and I didn't notice he said for the 6 cents trace. I was thinking he was talking about some of your larger baits. You can certainly get away with throwing, like I've thrown the I don't need to be sharing that anymore. Tom hit me up. He said he's here. He has my email. Tom, did you get that? But even throwing, like I've thrown the S waiver on like a medium heavy, that's rated up to an ounce. And I think those are like 1.25 ounces, the bigger one. And I've thrown heavier on it. Basically, the thing is just try to lob it more. Don't try to really whip snap cast. When you really try to snap it, that's when you get in trouble with. And that's any lure, not just a swim bait. Let's say you have a medium power rod that's only rated up to like a 1/2 ounce. You're going to throw a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait on it. It's really that load at the end. Once you get that tip, either in the cast or landing a fish bent down past 90 degrees, that's when you'd run into trouble with it. So
yeah. Another thing to think about is when you cast, if you got these big baits, these big treble baits, depending on how you cast, it affects how it flies through the air and lands on the water. And if you got a big bait with a lot of treble hooks, there's a chance it could roll and catch on your line. So, those overhead casts where you can get the bait kind of like nice and symmetrical and it's not helicoptering in the air, whatever you got to do to get that base nice and even when it lands is going to be better. And then also, press the brakes on your reel a little bit right before it hits the water so it lands nice and straight.
Yep. Yeah, Nick, I agree. We need to get Randy some cue cards or something. I'll get him the technical legal jargon, so when he gives my legal disclaimer.
Yeah, I was just going to start typing some up here, but then I started, I tried drinking something and breathing at the same time, and it didn't work out well. So,
yeah, we don't
like Ron Burgundy with cue cards.
Yeah,
I'm Ron Burgundy.
You can't say that.
Don't put a question mark. I'll read the question mark.
Denali. Oh, there's somebody else. Pima, did I see you type that before? Somebody else, I thought, asked a question about Denali swimbait rod. Pima's looking at a Denali ultralight. My only issue is that it's 5'4". Yeah, man, I don't know anything about Denali. We'll have to. Let's here as a group here. Let's all get on and look at some Denali rods together.
So I went down to the local place here because I was looking at the Denali website, and they said they had that they were a dealer. So I went down there, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, we got Denali's. We got Denali's. Come on, we don't have any Denali's." So I wanted to like get one in hand and like feel how it is, but no dice.
Let's do share window. Sharing my window. Okay, there we go. So Pima, yeah, I can't help you on that. I do have like my trout ultralight is pretty short, and I haven't noticed a huge issue with it. Let me tell you. I'll tell you here. Hold on.
Take a drink.
Yeah, mine's 5'6". So when you go to that real light line, you can bomb stuff out there. I mean, I'm using like a 1/16 ounce rooster tail, or maybe just a little bit lighter than that. But if you're going like super ultralight, I mean, I don't know. Obviously a longer rod's going to help you cast more distance, but I haven't had an issue with that one. 5'6" so far. It's like my trout rod and stuff, but I'm not a super good ultralight guy. You might want to hit up the Burley guys too. They do a lot of that, or mule fishing. Hit up Ethan over there. He does a ton of that stuff. He's got a bunch of good reviews too. TFO has a really good ultralight rod. I know Dobbins, I think in the Sierra line, has an ultralight. Is it the Sierra? One of those. Yeah, that's probably no help at all. I kind of just rambled about random things there. So Denali though, let's look at some of these Denali rods. Has anybody used them? Anybody in chat? Have you used the Denali rods? I seem to get questions on them, and I've never owned one.
I need to get a good ultralight combo for crappie fishing and perch and stuff like that.
So I think, holy crap, I didn't realize those were Androids are only $399 if you want to get top of the line. All sorts are chromed out. That's not the one I'll get. It looks cool though. Do they talk about what they use? So it's a 36-ton blank. What do they use for? Titanium guides, metallic plating, lifetime warranty with $30 fee for rods 1 year old or less. That's a pretty big deal too, especially when you get into those higher priced rods. What are their warranties like? So the lithium, I feel like I've heard people talk about. So that's a $219 rod of theirs. I like that it's pretty plain looking. I'm big on the plain stuff. I wish that was all smooth though, and not the stuff in between. That's a pretty good looking rod. See, it's only an IM8 blank. I wonder how sensitive that one is. 20% lighter than the previous model. What do we have in chat? Anybody talking about anything?
Randy Sully said he looked at a Denali truck and ran away screaming when he saw the price.
Yeah, I would too.
Hey kids, I had friends in high school that would pull up in a new Denali. You're like, man, get GTFO.
Brody Basson, he uses the 6'2" ultralight. Randall Pink Floyd's 7-foot ultralight. Oh yeah, Sierra trout and panfish. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, that's what I thought.
That new Josh Jones crappie rod from Dobbins. It's like 12 foot long.
Damn. I see a lot of guys do that where they're basically just jigging with it,
Well, that's like those the big old cane poles where it's not even you just tie a little line to like the tip eyelet. That's the only thing that's on there. You just like reach it out there.
Fish back in the day. Like back with my dad and everything, we had these I mean they were cane poles we call them, but they were actually these fiberglass telescopic rods that like 12 foot long.
Yeah.
Put a little mono on there with a little piece of like hot dog or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
And we would clear the patch in the lilies, and we catch a fish called shoe pick. Y'all know them as bowfin or dogfish. And that's what we would fish with shoe pick, and you catch crappie and sockeye, we called them in Louisiana. But
sockeye, yeah, paper mouth. Let's see. Yeah, so not much. Dustin looks like maybe the only one. Dustin,
You
yeah, I
okay
get
there,
that.
Grandpa?
Cisco says Dizzle wears his Guggen hat backwards. Yep. He Fishing Fix says ultralights are for sissies.
That's
Laugh
exactly.
out loud.
You need
Yeah.
that.
Oh man. I actually even threw yard darts and survived. Oh my gosh, bringing it back. Yeah, we
Lawn
did
darts?
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lawn darts were fun, man. What are you talking about?
Oh,
I
Brody
did.
said I used Denali lithium super light. Is that the one we were looking at here? The lithium? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all the info I have on Denali. I don't know if this has helped anybody. This concludes our review of Denali rods, as we know nothing
That's
about
pretty
them.
exhaustive.
Let's see. What was? I think there was one too that was like 100. Oh, the Covert is the one Rainey and I were talking about. So there's the
Was
old
that the one?
lithiums that are apparently. Yeah, the Covert was like the $160 one we were looking at. That's the one I would probably get to try, kind of middle of the road.
Yeah. I mean, it was.
Yeah, I like the looks of their
They had a
rods.
good looking rods. Yeah.
Which, I mean, looks mean nothing if it's not comfortable and it's not sensitive and stuff. But just looking at it from the outside in, I like the way it looks.
Hey,
Okay,
Debo,
what do we
Tom
got? What do
said
we got
that
for
he.
closing questions? What's
Tom
that?
said
Sorry,
he.
Randall.
Tom said he emailed you already, and I see Punch is in here.
Punch, what's up, Punch? Cheers, my man. Thanks for jumping in. Let's see. Okay, what do we got? Hit us with a few quick questions on the closeout here. This or that's, anything for Daniel, anything for Dizzle and I. What do y'all got? What do y'all want to know? Where are we going before we get out of here? Still 242 people watching. Always blows me away. Y'all come to hang out with us.
Philip Cheek said that he has some huge snapping turtles he wouldn't mind using a lawn dart on.
Let's see. Oh, Philip asked, did I miss out? Top Banana, do you have duckling lures? Have you ever made a duckling lure?
I have some prototypes. Nothing completed, but I've considered it. There's some duck lures out there. I know a couple people that make duck.
What was the one, Debo, that you kept? You stole it from me and you kept it because you wanted it so badly.
Oh God, Donnie Duck or whatever the hell that thing was.
The
I don't know. It was a Weston
Weston.
frog. Oh my gosh.
There's a guy in Canada. His name is CB Lures. Claude Brown is his name, and he makes like a little wake duck with like some little like a little spinner, Colorado spinner feet on it. But there's a swim bait guy named I think it's Two Face Baits is the name of his company. He's made some wake ducks before. But yeah, I'll probably make a duck at some point because I like to just make a little bit of everything.
Let's see. Brody says, when will Dizzle be fishing with you again? Dizzle and I went out and fished today. It was a pretty fun day. Beautiful freaking day out. We couldn't ask for anything better. But that video will be up probably, I would say Tuesday. And that'll probably be my next video, I would say. I've got some lure painting, a lure painting video for next week. I've got an unboxing for next week. I might spoil you all and do this. Get ready. Hold on. I might do 4 videos next week instead of just one that I've been doing, or 2 if I'm lucky. Work and kid stuff has just had me past busy. This or that, gravy or bass? Ooh, okay. What are your thoughts on biscuits and gravy, Daniel?
Well, see, from South Louisiana, when we say gravy, we're talking about like meat gravy, like brisket or chicken or something like that. Like a little further
like
up.
sauce piquant.
Yeah, sauce piquant. I make one of my favorite sauce piquant recipes is you actually use a deer neck, like venison, like deer neck, neck chops, and you cook it down.
Let it cook all out.
Yeah, it's real tenderness. It takes a long time. Or alligator sauce piquant, of course. But yeah,
I've heard of Nutria sauce piquant
gravy,
actually.
like a little flour gravy with some sausage in it. Yeah, I don't mind that. Cracker Barrel style gravy.
Yep. White gravy. Yep. Oh, love it. My favorite breakfast. Let's see. There was some up here. Oh, Nick, have I used the chick magnet much? No, I threw it once. So Nick was asking about these. I threw it once last year. I actually just picked up some of the smaller ones of these. But the competitor is Berkeley's, the Fritz side, their little flat side is what I've thrown a lot more and had a ton of luck with that one. So if this one's anything close to that, I will like it. But yeah, the Fritz side I've used a lot. Like that one quite a bit.
It swims good. I had got a couple of those. I did like one of those Secret Santa giveaways, and I got a couple of those in the pack, those chick magnets. I was throwing them with my son. They swam pretty good.
Daniel, this is probably for you. I'm gonna give it to all of us though. And I'm not gonna say not even on a glide bait, Daniel. For you, we're gonna go glide bait because you're a swim bait guy. But favorite species other than bass to catch on a glide bait? For me, that would for sure, hands down, be the northern pike. I love catching pike. Say what you want about them, but how about you? What's your favorite to catch all around?
I would say I would bring it back down to the coast and say like a big redfish, like a red drum.
Ooh,
glide bait. They'll hit anything.
Those look fun.
They'll wreck a glide bait, literally and figuratively.
It's really funny because redfish or a red drum is really what it is. Or a sport fish. People love them. We have like the big huge freshwater drum up here, and they're a trash fish. Like some people just throw them on the bank. It's funny, when you get to the different
fish, man.
They pull like hell. Absolute tanks to pull on stuff. Okay. What hot sauce? Do you have a favorite hot sauce being from Louisiana?
Ooh.
I like all kinds of hot sauces. I mean, favorite would be flavor-wise would be the Crystal hot sauce. That goes really well. Louisiana's good. It's kind of salty. And then like your what's it called?
Oh, here we go.
Tabasco. It's real vinegary, real good. I like Tabasco on pizza. My favorite.
See, I like the what is it? Cholula or Cholulo?
It's got like
that's good for Mexican night. You do some tacos or something like that.
See, I like that on my pizza.
Really good too.
That with ranch,
Ooh.
I'm a huge ranch fan, so I have to have ranch on my pizza, but with hot sauce. So
talking about hot sauce, one other little hobby I have is gardening, and I have a little pepper garden that I'm starting. I've got a retired couple that we're friends with outside of town. I've got some peppers already started, but I grow like habaneros and ghost peppers and Carolina Reapers and stuff like that. I love hot peppers.
What really? What do you use them for?
I pickle them. I make hot sauce out of them. I chop them up, freeze them.
Do you do jelly?
I do jelly, do like a cowboy candy and like a pepper jelly and stuff like that. My favorite peppers are like those Chinese red peppers, those long ones.
Oh, the long skinny ones, yeah.
And you can either ferment them or pickle them in a jar, and you can pour that and chop it up, put on like some red beans and rice. Ooh, aye,
because it's damn hot. Yeah, see, I like hot stuff, but like hot tastes good, not hot torch every. Like there's some people that just like get off on that stuff. It's like it's like an adrenaline rush for them, and they're just, what do they call them, like pepperheads or whatever. Yeah. It's like I forget what they call it, but it releases like endorphins or whatever gives them that kind of that rush, that high when they eat hot stuff.
I have a story I'd like to share if it's not too much time.
Man.
Louisiana, down in New Orleans, they got this on like the French Market area. They got this place called like Pepper Palace or Pepper Emporium or something like that. I took a friend there and we went checking out all the hot sauce one time. They had this one sauce. It was called Flashbang, and you had to like sign a waiver to like test out or something like that.
Hell no! If I have to sign a waiver to eat something,
it was bad.
When in any other place would you sign a waiver to eat something? Hell no.
Yeah, and like we had a couple of spirits in us, so we went and tested out, like whatever, signed it. But this stuff had like pure like capsaicin extract and like Carolina Reaper.
That stuff is like the extract is dangerous, man. If you get like, too much of it.
Thimble, yeah, it was just had like a little like quarter teaspoon, and it wrecked me, man. I was in the bathroom at the place. I took my shirt off. I was sweating so much. Fluids coming out of everywhere. It was bad.
Yeah. Hell no, man. People love it, but I actually work with actually it's his wife, but he is huge in that. He grows like all of his own like Ghost Carolina, all these crazy peppers, and he'll like eat like just for the fun of it. And it's like, he's like, man, it's just a rush. I'm like, I don't understand it, but that's cool. I mean, I eat biscuits and gravy because I like it, and there's people that think they taste like absolute crap. So to each his own. But Yeah, it's a huge thing. And like now they have all the, I'm sure you've seen it, but like those I forget who it is, like ghost pepper chip challenges, and all this
Oh,
stuff.
the
Like it's
Pocky.
a huge, yeah, it's like a huge thing now.
I heard
But
those taste like garbage though. I don't know if
I don't
Yeah,
know.
see,
kind of
there's a
flavorful.
big difference between something that's like hot just to like hurt your face, and then something that's hot that actually tastes good. So like if you can do something that's hot and actually tastes good, I'm down with that, like 100%. But I'm not just gonna. I don't really want to eat something that's hot just because it's hot and it's not tasty whatsoever.
Got to get some satisfaction.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's probably Dizzle's favorite hot sauce. That's about as hot as he can handle. No, he actually, I've seen it. I'll have to give it to Dizzle. He does like the hot foods and stuff, so I'll stick up for him there. I'm probably the guy that would be eating the barbecue ketchup and being like, "Oh, this is hot." I can't handle a ton of hot, but I like it. Like I like some spice to my food. Somebody asked the question, favorite jerkbait. I don't know where it went here. But do you have a favorite? Like if you get into conventional tackle, do you have? I don't know where the hell the question went, but favorite jerkbait. Let me jump over because somebody else asked earlier on some good under the radar jerkbaits like the IMA. Yeah, I feel like people don't talk about that one a lot. That's one that I've liked. How about you? Do you have any, Dana, that you've used over the years that you like?
So I'm gonna kind of come from an unconventional, conventional standpoint. So if you want to look up a good jerkbait, there's a company out in Louisiana. I went to high school with the guy, Chaz Champagne. He's got a company called Matrix Shad, or Dockside is the name of the country, but he makes these Matrix Shad like soft baits. But he's got a jerkbait. I don't know if it's called the Matrix Minnow or the Matrix something.
Is he in Tackle Warehouse?
I don't know if he's in Tackle Warehouse, but you can probably find him. You can either look him up. He's definitely like at places like Academy and Dick's Sporting Goods and stuff, particularly in the South.
Okay.
I'm sure you can find
What'd you
it.
say it was?
Look up Matrix Shad and or Dockside Lures or something like that. You might not be able to find
Matrix
it.
Shad Fishing.
He's got a website,
Fishing
but he's got a jerkbait on there that I think is incredible looking. It's kind of a shallow jerkbait. It's meant for like speckled trout and redfish, but I think it's killer for bass. I might have a
that'd
couple
be good for bank anglers too. I've got. I'm going to
it.
share it here. Yeah, I've never heard of Matrix Shad. So he's got some soft plastic swim baits. Let's see. Ah, what happened?
But once again, you know, it's a little bit more finesse, a little bit more shallow water type stuff. But
so this one, this Rip Shad.
Here's one of his little jerk baits. A little bit
shallower.
Here.
Yeah, this Rip Shad.
Rip Shad, that's what it's called. Yeah. It's got a nice
right here
rattle for a small bait. It's got a pretty heavy rattle. It's got some good quality hardware on it. But man, springtime fishing, I think that'd be a good one.
Huh.
Get that like purple and chrome one. That'd be a good color.
So $8.99 for one of them.
Not bad.
Yeah, never heard of them. Now looking here, it looked like he had a bunch of soft plastics too. Kind of might be as big.
He's got some incredible small swim baits, you know, and crawfish baits and stuff like that. You know, that's like a staple down in South Louisiana. You know, his little Matrix, the regular Matrix and the Matrix Mega. He's got a bigger one, the Matrix Monster. I've thrown all those. Good guy. Like I said, I went to high school with the guy. He's a good guy and good company.
Yeah, that's always cool when you know somebody that like busts out something like this. I was like, oh, I went to school with him. Let's see. There was a purple one that I saw. Oh, hey.
And those make great
midnight
trailers for like spinner baits. Those regular Matrix minnows.
So 8-pack, how long are they? Don't think it says.
Yeah, got a couple of them here. I got a guy out here in Missouri, Mobtown Custom Jigs. He makes me some spinner baits, but I've got some Matrix minnows as trailers on the spinner baits.
How long are they?
It's got to be like, let me measure it real quick.
3.5 inches.
Looks like about 3.5 inches.
Huh. Yeah, I've never heard of these. That's pretty cool. Little paddle. Oh, look at that one. Yes, that's the color right there. Ooh,
Midnight mullet.
little purple with some chartreuse flake down there in the belly.
He's got some good color options. I'll give him that.
Burley Boys. Oh, this is purple chartreuse here. How do we get it to pop up?
So in
here?
Louisiana, like when we fish in the marsh, we'll double rig those. We'll do double rig with like a popping cork, and we'll pop those close to the bank.
I've heard of
for, speckled trout. And
yeah, I don't know what that is. Yeah, people have talked about like the popping cork for redfish and stuff. I've never done any of that, but
grab one of those too.
let's see. There was another one. Oh, pulling a dizzle over there.
My tower of boxes are falling down. You want a good popping cork? Matrix has them too, but there's a company called Four Horsemen down in South Louisiana, and it makes a quality popping cork.
So is the point of the popping cork to like draw attention to it? Is that the whole deal to it? Is to like the sound,
it's supposed to mimic either the fish hitting the water. So when you pop it, you not only have the cup of the popper, but you got like this little resin ball as well as this weight clicking. And it sounds like a fish hitting it, but also shrimp. You know, shrimp are real popular bait fish, and they make like kind of like a popping sound when they're trying to get away from stuff. So you get that.
So basically, it's a topwater Carolina rig.
Exactly. So you pop it and let the bait settle. Give it another pop, let the bait settle, and then they usually hit it on the fall. Sometimes
yeah, I've heard of them, and I never knew what the hell they were. Okay. Yeah. So you have just a weightless plastic in back, like on a hook, like Randy said, like on a Carolina rig on like, I don't know, like a foot or 2 foot leader or something behind it. And then as that's
we used to run a little bit heavier mono on the backside, and we run it to like a jig head, like a little 1/4 ounce jig head, 1/8 of an ounce, 3/8 of an ounce, depending on how much leader, how much current and stuff. But yeah, and you run something like a little matrix minnow on there and just pop it, or you can double rig it, you know, with 2. For double rigs, I just take a long piece of monofilament, tie you 2 jig heads on, and just do like a little overhand knot, and then loop it in there.
See, like a double rig around here, I think they call it the donkey rig, which is like 2 like soft plastic jerk baits, like flukes. So you'll do you'll do one, let's say on like a, I don't know, 18-inch line, and you tie it to a swivel, and then you take your second one and run it through the hole of that swivel where you would normally tie onto it, run it through the hole of the swivel, and then just tie your main line to another one. So it's got like one here and another one here, and as you pop them, you know, like you're doing, they're just going. That's one that I've never ever tried. I've seen people post about it and stuff. I think they call it the donkey rig, but that's one I want to try this year.
Swimbaits too. They call it like an assault rig or suicide rig or something. I don't know. Some kind of aggressive name.
Let's see. Bass Trouble said, wow, you guys are still going. Got caught up so Easter morning, back up, unlocked YouTube, popped up with you guys. He said, that's why you're the man, Debo. Well, I'm sorry you're getting in on the end of it, but on that note, I think we're probably going to get out of here. But Daniel, once again, thank you for joining, man. Top Banana Lures. Everybody go check him out on the Instagrams. Hit him up if you're looking at any of the rat lures, Swimbaits stuff. Like I said, he's an OG follower of mine, so it was fun to get him on. But anyway, any other closing remarks or statements or anything from you, brother?
For me, I appreciate you having me on, man. I love making baits. I love throwing big baits, but anything fishing related, you know, is a passion of mine. And yeah, hit me up anytime. I'm happy to chat with people. I'm very open about everything, bait building and stuff like that.
Hell yeah, man. Dizzle, any closing comments before you get back to studying for your exam?
Is that better? I'm just gonna say, everybody just get out and fish. 4 hours, 8 hours, 2 hours, 45 minutes. Get out, fish, and while you're out there, pick up some trash if you see it.
Yes. Quit leaving your worm containers and bush light cans. pick them up and take them with you. So on that note, we're out of here. Everybody have a fun, safe, happy weekend. Love y'all. Thanks for watching, and until next weekend.